everyone. Welcome to Film Profit Repeat. My name is Camille Hugh. I am a writer, a filmmaker, and an actress. And I love making stuff and talking to other creatives who make stuff and trying to find out what their process is, how they were able to do what they do. And today I am joined by Dellan Bruder, who is a writer, a producer, and he is the creator of a web series that I recently discovered and loved. It's called The Thing With Jed. And he's here with me today to talk about it. Hi, Dellan. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. This is super fun.
Yeah, and full disclosure, so we actually kind of know each other. We were in a writing group together, like in the start of the pandemic a while back. And I always appreciated your feedback. You always gave great feedback. And I also really love that you loved, like myself, romantic comedies. You love
yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of what The Thing with Jed is. It's like a comedy slash mystery slash romance. It has like everything going on in there that I love. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So how about you just give a log line or a brief synopsis of what The Thing with Jed is about?
Cool. So yeah, The Thing with Jed is basically about this guy who works in an office. He's an accountant and slash like programmer, and he makes this program that tracks company expenses. And then like this is kind of a long log line. I should have just read what I have on the on the actual page instead of like improvising this. Anyway, this guy is not well liked, and somebody starts pranking him in his office, and he doesn't know who. And then the series is mainly about him just kind of trying to figure out and solve this problem of somebody pulling all these pranks on him, and the people that he kind of meets along the way and who help him like in trying to solve that.
Hi. So I got pranked again this morning. It's the fourth one that's happened this month, and I'm starting to feel a little out of control.
I know. I do understand. This must be very frustrating, embarrassing. Unfortunately, until we figure out who's doing this, there's not much I can do to stop it.
Okay, well, how are we gonna do that?
So it's just a comedy about this guy in like kind of a tough spot.
Yeah, and it's really funny and it's really well shot. It looks amazing. So congrats on that. And I just want to, like I said, dive into the details of how you were able to bring this to light. It dropped a month ago. We put it up on YouTube. I just found out about it. And so how long ago did you actually write The Thing with Jed?
So I wrote The Thing with Jed probably like 3 years ago. So that was like a few years between the creation and then the like actual release.
Did you write it with the intention of making it yourself, or was it just supposed to be like something that went in your portfolio?
I actually definitely did write it with the intention of making it. It's like, so I wrote the first episode of the series because some friends had invited me to try and work on a web series project with them. So initially it was always like, this is going to be a web series. And they ended up that project ended up just not really taking off. Like we just kind of whatever, you know how things taper off. And then I liked my episode, and honestly, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my partner, Brittany, who was a friend of mine, we were on an improv group together. She, who also then produced it with me and starred in it, like so she's a huge part of the project. But it was really when she was like, this is great, you should do it, that I started to have the real intention of making it, you know. And then from there, I wrote the other 2 episodes, and it was always going to be, you know, we were planning to crowdfund it and shoot it.
Oh, so you started planning that you were going to crowdfund it. I was going to ask you that question because I saw like a ton of names at the end of the credits. It seems like maybe it's crowdfunded, or you just have a ton of people involved with this production. So you made it with the intention of crowdfunding it. What platform did you use? How much did you raise? How did you go about that whole process of crowdfunding it?
So that was my first time ever doing crowdfunding. It was me and Brittany's like first time. Brittany's my partner, so she's the co-producer. She's the other producer on the project. So me and her were you know, just first time doing all of this. So we were just kind of asking around, you know, showing friends the script and seeing what we could do and like trying to decide on platforms, but it was very kind of distant idea still at the time. And then someone read the script who was a producer, and he liked it, and he introduced me to like a younger person who then, this is such a long explanation, but she pointed me to this company called From the Heart Productions, and they are, I would highly recommend to anybody who is like an independent filmmaker. They're called From the Heart. It's run by this woman named Carol Dean, and they basically are a nonprofit, like LLC. I don't know the right term, but they're a nonprofit company officially, and they'll take your project and like sign on as a producer for like officially, so that then when you crowdfund, anybody who donates to your project is donating to their nonprofit, and it becomes like a tax deductible thing for anybody who's donating. So, and they're just like really supportive. They have a lot of like, you know, they put me on their website. So it was just like From the Heart Productions is who I ended up going through to crowdfund the project, and they have their own website. So it wasn't like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. It was kind of unique in that way, but it ended up being like just really great, especially for us being like a first time project, to have this other company kind of there to like validate your work. They were very, very nice people, and they love like films and independent filmmakers. So I just really highly recommend it. And that is how I crowdfunded it. Yeah.
Oh, whoa. So they just reached out to you, or someone knew them, someone put you in touch
Someone
with them?
recommended them to me, like a young producer recommended them to me, who had just, when we were like showing people the script really early on, just to try and see what was the best next step, because we were not professionals, right? So that was like our first step, really, was just to say like, hey, this is our script, we think this is funny, does anybody who does know what they're doing like want to just give us some advice, you know, even just to sit down and have coffee, which I did get to do with a couple of people, and that was so crucial, like just getting to hear the advice. So that, and people, people ended up being really nice, and like one of those people is a guy named John Perkis, who also acted in the series eventually. So it was just, yeah, that whole beginning stage of figuring out how to crowdfund was mainly just people kind of like helping us out of the goodness of their heart, but it was a very positive, and that way it was a really positive experience. Yeah.
That is amazing. Okay, I'm gonna have to write that. I'm making notes. So I reach out to that.
Yeah, they're
company
called From the Heart Productions. Sorry, I feel like that was such a long answer for what should have been like a really simple question.
No,
but...
please feel free to expound as much as you want to. I love the details. So like, please get into the details. But okay, so it's not really like one of those platforms where you have to kind of reach out to spam your friends and your family and beg them for money. It's like they put it on their website, and they take care of the fundraising.
I wouldn't say, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like I definitely did still spam my friends and family. You know, I don't know if spam is the right word, but I definitely did still put it out to them. Another thing that I did, which is like a strategy that I guess people can use, but I'm a personal trainer, so I actually put out like to all my clients, I was like, hey, if you donate to the series through this, then like, you know, I'll give you a certain amount of sessions for like a certain level of donation. So it wasn't like a full-on match, because I didn't want to like just like give away my services just for the donation, but it was like a kind of an incentive for them, and like that ended up being really, really like a huge part of it, because some of them were just so generous, like, you know, and like what else was there, yeah, and you know, we just did the regular thing, but yeah, it still was definitely mainly us doing the promotion, I guess I want to say. I don't want to give the impression that From the Heart Productions somehow is like a key to promotion, because it's not, but it does have the added benefit. I think it has a nice ring to it when you get to tell your friends or family like, hey, this will also be tax deductible, and like we have the backing of this like nonprofit independent film company, and people are just kind of like, oh, that's cool, like it sounds like you're kind of already on your way, you know what I mean? So like that was just helpful. And of course they had a lot of resources. Like when I first got onto From the Heart, it was some of their articles on like how to crowdfund, like what are the best, that was some of the best info that I got. So like in that way also it was really helpful. So yeah, I guess I'm like really plugging them, but
you still, no, but, but you still had to do the heavy lifting. You still had to be creative.
yeah, exactly.
And did you have budget? Like, did you have a line producer, or did you go through it and say, this is how much I think I need to make? And then what was that benchmark that you thought that you needed to reach? And then what did you end up
So
raising?
yeah, so our initial goal was like $8,000, and you know we had a loose like line budget, which was our like hope, I guess. You know, it wasn't really I would say super accurate, but it was, we definitely had a line budget of some kind to create that estimate, because you also want to be able to put that, I think we even put that on our crowdfunding page. Like we were trying to be kind of upfront about what we would use those funds for, to explain the goal, which I think was really a big part of us actually hitting and exceeding our goal, was like that our goal was very realistic and very clear. So I think people, when they heard that, were like, oh man, if I give a little more, like you'll really just get there already. And that was nice. Like I think sometimes when you go to the pages, I mean, not to knock anybody, I think everybody's asking for what they need, right? Like film is super expensive, but yeah, I do think our initial estimate of 8,000 was, if anything, like extremely like not ambitious, you know, it was modest. So and then we ended up raising $11,700 something dollars, like it was $742 or something. So yeah, it was great. It was very successful as far as we were concerned. So yeah, and we ended up being able to make it. So that was great.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the making it. So how did you cast? How did you find your cast? How did you find your crew? You know, did you have your own equipment? Because that's what most of the budget really goes towards, right? So how did that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean that's like the big ticket item. So the cast, we have such a wonderful cast who I just like love so dearly, and they were mostly our friends. Many of the main characters were like people, as I mentioned earlier. The other producer on the project, who is my partner Brittany, was on an improv team with me in, you know, those years. And so everybody everybody else who's on the team is in the series, and we were just super close. So that was a lot of them, and I wrote it definitely with the intention to put those people in it. Like we had been doing improv together for 2 to 3 years. It's just, I don't know, I'm sure, you know, you've had those kinds of artistic relationships with people where you're just like, man, we just vibe like so well. But with improv, it's so like ephemeral, right? So I really wanted to do something and like put it on film and be like, we had this time together, like in this era, you know, like we were making stuff and like you could really see it. So it was like very meaningful to be able to do that together, and then more people from that community who weren't on that team. We all were from the Pit. I don't know if you remember or heard about the Pit.
Of course, I love the Pit.
Yeah,
when it was.
Yeah, RIP to the Pit. So anyway, we were from there, and a lot of people from there, and then some other like actor friends from college. And Britt was like 100, if you look at the credits, she's like casting, and she was pretty much 100% responsible for like, I think this person would be great for that person, this person would be great for that person. She just had such a good eye for it. So that was like so cool. And then yeah, it was just fun to be able to do it. The crew, I was like a little more involved in finding the crew and picking that. I obviously just kind of used Mandy.com a lot of the time. As you mentioned, one of the first things you said is like, it looks really incredible. The cinematography is amazing. So the person that I 100% would have to shout out is Shannon Madden, the cinematographer, who is now working on a show called, I think it's called Kevin Can Fuck Himself or something. But she's like, yeah, it's a comedy. It's on AMC, and it's like doing pretty well. But she's been on a lot of big stuff. She's very successful. We were just really lucky that like, I think it was right at this moment where her career was like about to really take off. And I emailed her right at this time where she didn't have a lot going on, and she was just like, hey, this is funny, I will do it, and I'll do it for the asking price. And like, it's really crazy because, so just to go into some of the details of the production, like it was it's 3 like 12 to 14-minute episodes, and the script was altogether for 3 episodes like 45 pages, and we shot it in 4 days. So like that's huge. Like on average, you'll shoot like 3 to 6 pages a day at the most. So we were doing double what like the average shoot is. And like I've said, we're all like first time novice filmmakers. So I had asked so many DPs like, hey, I probably sent out like, not so many, but like 12 emails, you know what I mean? All of these people were like, you need twice as much money and twice as much time. Literally, like multiple people said that to me. And then Shannon was just like, fuck it, yeah, we'll do it. Like, we'll just do it, right? And I'm like, yeah, we'll totally do it. Like, it's crazy. And then she did this, like, it just looks so good. She did such an incredible job. So yeah, and then everybody else did such an incredible job. Like, I mean, they're all in the credits, so I'm not gonna like just shout them all out on this podcast. But like, we were so lucky. Like Emmanuel Germond, who did our sound, was a recommendation from Shannon. A lot of the crew were recommendations from Shannon, and then some of them who I had to fill in those extra spots were from Mandy.com, and which is like a great resource, obviously. And then but that's how we like formulated it. Like the cast was very much our friend group, and then the crew we kind of pulled together. But Shannon, who was this like the first kind of professional person that signed on to the crew, who was like so talented, obviously, then I trusted her so much, right? Because I saw her reel. I was like, we're so lucky to be able to get you. She just had a great vibe. So then I was like, who else? Do you have anybody else? And she recommended our sound person. She recommended like the key grips and a couple of other people. And then we had a pretty small crew. So the only other people I had to fill out really were like, I got a PA just to like have extra hands for whatever we would need. Obviously I got makeup, and then a couple of other people roles that Shannon said she would need. But she was like so crucial. And I feel like if a person doesn't really know what they're doing, like I did, that was really if you can't tell, my like first approach was just to try and find people who like they knew what they were doing and they seemed excited about the project, so I could trust them, and then they would kind of help me move forward. And that was like really how it happened. Like I definitely was not trying to like rig stuff on my own, you know what I mean, that I wasn't like fully confident in, because I wanted a very professional look. So the look of it did, I think, come out like pretty professional, and that's definitely thanks to like just leaving it to the hands of people who I was lucky enough to like form a relationship with,
Yeah, that's a great approach. If you don't know what you're doing, find someone who does, right?
Yeah.
And then that makes your life a lot easier. I take the approach where it's like, let me learn how to do this, which takes twice as long, because you have to figure out stuff on your own. But no, that's an amazing approach. And so that sounds like you probably had like a crew of around 5 or so people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, like 5 or 6 people on the crew. And like that was it. Yeah.
You were directing, or was she directing and being the DP as well?
I actually did direct, and but I was very like I was always kind of checking in with her, but also I wasn't really doing anything super like ambitious with the directing, I guess I could say. Like it's very straightforward. So it was easy for us to communicate in that way, and there were a couple of things where like she definitely, with her experience, made like a definitive suggestion that like saved us a ton of time, or like was just more creatively interesting, or like that so Shannon definitely had like I would say an influence on the way that I directed it, like in a huge way. But as far as our like roles on the set, I would say she was mainly doing just like cinematography.
And so how was it to make that shot list for a 45-page script? It's the bane of my existence, making those shot lists.
It was like, honestly, that's so funny. Like, it's funny, I was excited to do this interview for like, just for somebody to ask me a question like that, right? Because like, there are so many parts of the process that are so like challenging, but that unless you like do it, and I haven't, it's like, I don't know, you just don't have those conversations with your friends or something where they're like, how do you feel about your shot list? They're just like, hope it's going well, like you're doing great or whatever, so whatever. And anyway, to answer your question, it was rough. It was so much more work than I initially anticipated. Like, when I thought about directing, I was like, this will be fun. And then in the middle of making the shot list, I was like, this is a nightmare. Why did I take this job?
It is.
Yeah. So that's how it felt.
Yeah, but you got it done. And so did you shot it in the city, or because it looks
we
like
shot it. So actually, like, kind of a crazy story. Initially, we were supposed to shoot at one location, and then the day before we were gonna shoot, the location fell through.
Oh no.
And so we had to like pull out everything. Thankfully, we didn't lose like a ton of money on it. So it was like our budget was still intact. And even the person who had was supposed to hook us up with the location, like, ended up reimbursing our costs. So it worked out okay. Also, thankfully, scheduling wise, everybody was able to like push it forward into the summer. So that ended up working out, but that was like crazy. And then we found another office through a client of mine. So
Okay.
like I said, I'm a personal trainer, and I was just asking around. I wrote it definitely. I think like the world probably has enough office comedies, right? But like Jed is like an office place comedy, but I did definitely write it with the idea of like, I bet I can get an office like for cheap or for free, right? Like, I bet I know somebody in my network that I can just show. If I write this whole series and it just is in this one location, we all, if you write, if you're interested in making web content, you're always thinking about how to keep a low production value like that. So that's kind of what I did, and it ended up working out that way. So that's how we found the location.
That's a testament to when you're making anything that's unexpected, things like losing your location the day before might happen, and you have to just be able to not just quit and say, oh, it wasn't meant to be, or just be upset. You have to move forward and find another location and reschedule and get it done. I mean, I can totally relate to that experience.
Yeah, totally. In that way, like, I'm really very grateful to have crowdfunded it, because like, for me personally, I would love to say that I'm the type of person who would like always push through those types of experiences or whatever. But like, just a comment on what you're saying of like the perseverance aspect. Like I said, I don't know if I even would have made it if like Britt didn't really like believe in the script to begin with. And then outside of that, definitely seeing so many people donate their money, right, like to me, like, and my friends, basically just being able to live out something that we are really excited about on a personal level. Like, that's kind of a crazy thing. It's crazy that we like live in that world now. So that was so motivating for me. Like, when that location fell through, there was just no doubt in my mind. Like, I wasn't even phased. Like, there wasn't even a moment. I mean, obviously I was I was very upset, but immediately I was like, I don't think that there was not even 10 minutes before I texted the person that ended up giving me the next location where we actually did shoot, because I had that plan B in mind, and because I was just like, okay, this is it. Because people gave me like almost $12,000. That is like not mine, And so what am I going to tell those people? Like, that was the only thing I was thinking. And I'm so grateful for that. So like, if anybody is hesitant about the crowdfunding experience and like the stress that might come with it, like, I would I would add that that can be like a very positive stress and can like, I think, bring something out of you that maybe you didn't expect. Like it definitely brought something out of me that was like intense and helped carry the project through to the finish line for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, if you have that money, you're like, I can't just stop, right? You
It's
have
a
to
lot
keep
of money. I
going.
was like, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy that these people
believe
are
in
like,
me.
yeah, like you'll do it, and so yeah, when I got to write to those people and was like, hey, we did it, here it is, like, and I was like, I hope you like it. Like, I really meant it. Like, it's incredible that I was given the opportunity to do something like that,
Was that the most difficult part of the shooting then? That just the location falling through and then everything else was gravy?
The shoot was, I have to say, like, I don't want to say it was gravy because obviously it was very like high stress at moments, but like Britt, my partner, the other producer, she's like a very outspoken Virgo. She loves her like Virgo self. I don't know if you're into astrology, but Virgos are like known for organization. That's what I'm getting at. So she was like so hyper focused on making sure that we had everything we needed, everything in place. And I'm like not that way. So I'm not saying entirely thanks to her. Like we obviously worked on it all together, but she was like such a force, especially in making sure that we were ready. You know what I mean? That things were going to run on schedule, and like knowing that she was behind me in that way and was basically playing the assistant director role and was going to be like, we're on this time, we're on that time. And like, that was for me just because we have such a good partnership. So it like really helped me stay focused, and having Shannon there to be like, we can do this or we can do that instead, to like save time or whatever, like having more professional people there again was just such a huge part of making it all run smoothly. So yeah, it was really cool. Like there was just a very good vibe between everybody. And I think me and Britt as the producers, most importantly, came into it really wanting to like respect everyone's time. Like there was no chance we didn't want to let the day run on past schedule. So we wanted to stick to our schedule. We didn't want people having to like text their friends, like, I'm going to be an hour late, I'm going to be here all night. We wanted to make sure people had food. Like we just wanted to, because we've been, Britt's an actor, like she's been on like plenty of sets, and yeah, we just wanted to really have a good set experience. So like, I guess having that intention really helped things run smoothly when we did get there, because the shoot was, really positive. Like I said, I don't know if I would call it gravy, because you're trying to like make sure you get everything in while you're doing it, but we did not have any days that ran over, and we did not have really anything that we didn't get that was on the shot list. And like, I think those are two really big accomplishments from a production standpoint. So yeah.
Definitely. That is a huge testament to being organized and planning and respecting your cast and your crews when you have your, things organized. So, okay, let's talk about real quick the post-production. So did you have someone edit it? Did you edit it yourself? How long did that process take?
So I edited it myself. I did not know how to edit, so I hired someone to like batch the footage for me and then get it kind of organized. And then I also, as part of their like fee, it was agreed upon that we would kind of sit down together and they would just like spend a little time showing me what they had created, how to go through Premiere, like basically a little bit about how to edit, right? Just so I had some idea of what I was even looking at. And that for me was like very helpful. I really learn like best kind of with people. So that was my strategy. And then I ended up even actually hiring another person who was a film student to sit down with me and just spend another like few hours with me teaching me how to edit. So he and I probably spent like probably a total of like 12 hours together. He's credited as the assistant editor. And yeah, he just is a super cool guy, really, really helpful. And then from there, that all happened within the first month of completing the production, right? And then like, as you can tell, we didn't release it until like just a month ago. So I was editing it for like 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Like something like that.
Editing
Like
is
it was
hard.
like a year. Yeah, like it was like a year and a half. It was a long time. It wasn't exactly 2 years, but it was like almost 2 years. And that definitely wasn't planned, right? Like my initial goal was to be done with it within the year. Like I wanted maybe to spend like 6 months editing it. And I did, I guess, kind of meet that goal in a way, because I did have a finished draft of all the episodes by that initial deadline, but COVID had hit at that point. And we just didn't know what was going to be happening with the like film festival industry. And I just personally, all our lives were like crazy. So I was just like not really in a place at that point to say like, this is the time where I want to drop this project. So, and I just kind of knew it could be better. It really wasn't as funny as I wanted it to be. Like the first thing that I would say at all about any post-production that I think most people would agree with is like, it's kind of horrifying to see that initial cut of what you've created. Like, you know, it definitely is like not at all what it will eventually become.
Yeah.
My personal strategy for dealing with that was to like let as many people watch it in my presence as I could. Like I wasn't as interested in like email feedback, because it's just so kind of useless. Like people will be so just nice about what they say. But if you can watch, like people's facial expressions really don't lie, right? So like I just wanted to sit in a room with as many people as I could and watch them watch it. And that was really my strategy for getting from draft to draft of the cut. And the other thing I would say is like that I think everybody would agree with is like, you do have to be willing to like cut so much if you wrote it, like you're going to have to cut so much of your writing. Like you don't have to, you know, I mean, maybe you're better than me, but like I so many things ended up getting cut because it was just like, you know, it's just crazy how some things can translate on a page and then something is just like not captured within the filming process. As a director, I would have gotten a lot more shots of things. But then again, if I did get that many shots of things, then probably you wouldn't have been able to finish it. So like, it's good that I was such a novice and I only wanted like a medium or like a close up. Like I was so simple. But yeah, in post-production, I'm so glad that I did edit it myself, because it showed me so much about the mistakes that I made as a director that I don't think I would have ever understood. Because, you know, I was just like, fuck, I wish I had this shot, right?
Oh my
like,
God, yes.
And like, if I wasn't editing it myself, I don't think I would know that. I would just handed back to me whatever somebody else did. And like, so, and that was definitely part of my goal in like trying to be playing so many roles, was just to like do that, learn as much as possible. So, and it was definitely did that. Like it taught me so much. So yeah, but it was a long process to edit it. I mean, it's a lot of footage, but on top of that, like the thing that made it take so long was just that I guess the world was in such a crazy place. So there was like no rush, but also that, you know, it's just, you see it get better. Once you see it get better, I think it like triggered something in me that I was like, oh, then it really could just be like, there's no doubt that it could be good, right? Like there's some combination, there's some permutation of this footage and this sound that will be like funny, or will be kind of what you want it to be, or close to it. Like, you know, if you've gotten at least enough of the footage, or if you can be creative enough with what you have, like because just the smallest things, as you know, like the littlest bit of timing can make such a huge difference in the overall feeling of a scene and the overall impact of a scene. So like, it just made me kind of so obsessed with just getting to that next little step, whatever it was. I mean, I was editing it the day before the drop. Like I literally, when I shouldn't have been, right? Like everything should be locked. And it was, but I was still like, because you can still, even if it's colorized and even if the sound is locked, like you can still fuck with the images like the tiniest bit. And I was like, okay, like this is gonna be funnier. And people will say I'm crazy, but I think that those edits were some of the best. Like, so I just think like
time is a charm.
yeah, like, yeah, I just think it like giving it time was so useful, like especially being that it was my first time doing it, and like my first cuts were so just like bad, like not good.
Well, that said, would you ever, like, are you going to be editing your next project, or you think you're going to hand it off to someone now that you've learned the lessons that you feel like you wanted to learn doing it yourself the first time?
I think that really depends on like a lot, and I guess it depends on like the role I played in the project. I think if somehow the cards like fell into place that I was just the director on a project somehow, which like I kind of doubt that somebody that like I would be just directing a project that I hadn't written, like, but if that were somehow the case, then I probably would not care about editing it. I think like, I don't know why, that it just kind of feels that way to me, because I guess it would have been so collaborative from the start, right? From the outset, that I don't think I would feel as much ownership or as much responsibility to like push it to be, I mean, as a director, I would still want to push it to be the best that I could be. But like, as I said, I guess because it's initially collaborative, maybe it feels that way to me. But my own writing, I probably would want to edit.
Yeah.
But then again, like I just wrote a sketch and a friend of mine directed it and we shot it, and like he's gonna edit it. So
Yeah.
that's not even true.
Maybe the longer form ones you might want to edit. And I totally understand what you mean. Like in the web series that I made, I've had people offer to edit it. I'm just like, I need to edit it. I have something in mind.
I think like I just think when you write it, that's your joke, right? Like that's your writing, and we all know that what you wrote can end up being misrepresented by the edit. So if somebody fucked up my directing job with a bad edit, I wouldn't feel as bad as if somebody fucked up my writing job with a bad edit. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but I just feel that way. Like, so I guess that's another reason for I don't know why I'm harping on this distinction so much, but anyway, yeah.
No worries. So let's talk about, since we only have a few minutes left, you got it edited, you got a shot, and the promoting of it. How do you get eyeballs on it, right? Because like you make it to be seen, and that's one of the hardest parts for many creators. Like, how do I get people to watch it? So what are you doing to market, promote the Thing With Jed, make sure it gets seen?
So this is really interesting. I wish that I had like an awesome answer for it. I mean, I'll give a simple answer first, which is like we have our Instagram page. We did a countdown to our release. We followed everybody on the project. We didn't like beg them to please promote it as much as possible, but we were just like, hey, here it is. Post it if you want to post it. And it was a great response. Also, that was another nice thing about crowdfunding it. We had that automatic like base who wanted to watch it, right? And they were showing their friends. So like very quickly, the first episode of the series had like a few hundred views, and the other two episodes, like people kind of trickled down into them pretty well. But yeah, we don't have like a ton of views, and I guess the longer answer is I really did not. That was kind of one place where I definitely have dropped the ball to a certain degree. Like I'm not trying super hard to promote it. I do have a strategy that I'm going to start implementing this month, which is I've already started editing out like basically single lines that I think just have like a funny delivery to them, like a funny sound or something visually interesting about them. And I'll probably either just drop those with like on TikTok and on Instagram, or I'll turn some of them into memes, right? And like hopefully they go viral. I also have we have original music for the series as well, so I've asked the composer to like publish them. He might, I still have to follow up with him about it, but we might publish the music for the series as an EP that then can be listed on Instagram and TikTok, because that's like another low-key way to promote the series. Is like, if you do have that original music and it's a little catchy, you never know, like somebody might pick it up and then somebody's like, where's this from? And then it's like, oh, it's this series. That's like such a distant thought though. My main strategy is just to post little videos of it and little pics of it and like make little memes out of that. And then hopefully that will then allow the actors and the cast to repost their little pieces. And then that will just generate some like user content that we can repost or whatever. But for the most part, I think as much as I guess it's an interesting thing as the creator of it, to be totally honest, leading up to the release, I had like a strong resistance unconsciously, you know, like it's in retrospect very clear, but I was just not getting to it, right? Like not doing that research, not putting in that extra little bit of time. We had the Instagram, I was consistent about making the posts, but I was like not planning for that continued promotion. And it's something that I think in retrospect is like, for me, I think I was nervous about the response, and I think I was nervous about the idea of like, what if people don't respond well to this? And then I'm stuck like really putting all of this promotion into something that like people are not feeling good about or something like that. And I guess I was worried about that, like in some way. And I do feel like it's worth mentioning on this podcast since it's for other creators, right? Like that's, I guess, an anxiety that I did feel. And I think in the process, there are so many little quicksand traps like that. These like emotional quicksand traps that, you know, like you were saying, when the production fell through, that's something that somebody might go, oh crap. And I was worried about that at that time, of people feeling like the project was losing momentum and anticipating that it wasn't going to shoot and then kind of forgetting about it. And then you lose your team, right? You lose all this work. Like I was kind of worried about that, and that was keeping me motivated, and I wanted to keep it together. And I feel like for the promotion, that was maybe another moment where I should have been more like proactive and prepared. Like, not that I'm really too hard on myself about it, you know, like I have other things going on in my life also, like and also we got the project over the finish line. Like I'm super excited about that, so don't get me wrong. But yeah, to answer your question about promotion, like I think there's a lot of things that can be done, but for myself personally, it definitely felt like a little weird, that idea of like pushing my work forward, you know, and I was a little worried about how people would perceive that or how people would receive it. And, you know, like with any of that stuff, there's always a way to do it that's going to be a little cringy, but there's also a way to do it that's going to be like fun and make people just laugh or have a positive feeling about your passion for the project, or have a positive feeling about what the project is about or whatever. You know, it's like, there's also good marketing too that's like healthy for whoever's involved and whoever's receiving it. And like I think that yeah, I hope to do more of that. And as a producer, it was surprising to me to see myself kind of like miss the beat there, and then retroactively have to kind of be like, oh wow, that was another one of those moments that I bet a lot of people feel that way. and it's like a difference maker, right? Like the people who can get comfortable doing that and figure out how to do it really well, their projects probably do kind of take off better than others, you know. I think also I had this weird like kind of prideful hope that it like would just be good enough, right? Like that it would just like take off on its own. But like I think that's also not like, I think that's an understandable feeling, but not something that like I'm not trying to give in to that way of looking at it or that idea, because there are just so many wonderful projects that will just like, you know, not really get noticed for whatever reason, and we all know that quality is like not the difference maker. So if making a little noise about it can like get it to be seen, then that's definitely something that I'm trying to like open myself up to more, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's been kind of hard for me, to be totally honest.
I appreciate you saying that. That's something that I have felt, and I'm sure many creators have felt, that anxiety about, first of all, being cringy and like
Yeah.
pushing yourself forward, but then the response to it, like will people like it, and not wanting to make yourself vulnerable in that way, even though like writing and making all that, you're being so vulnerable, you're putting your words
Yeah,
on
you're being
paper and
so
people are reading.
vulnerable, you put so much work in. Yeah, totally. And like you've exposed yourself in so many different ways to even get to that point. So yeah, I think it's just another one of those things. Like there are just so many things, if you're responsible for creating your own work like that, that you just kind of like, another added layer of responsibility is put on top of you, and you just kind of have to sigh and be like, there's this part of you that's like, this too, like I have to do this as well.
Yeah.
Or like there's another thing, but but like that's just, I guess as I get older, as I do more things like this, like I think as we all do more things like this, I guess you do start to understand like, oh yeah, that just is kind of how it goes, and it should, and it is rewarding, you know, like it at the end it is rewarding, and like, or hopefully it's rewarding. And like certainly I guess for me, yeah, it definitely has been like, afterwards we've entered some festivals, and like, you know, today I'm going to be writing the cover letter for those festivals. And you know, as I was writing the cover letter, I was like reminded of what you're saying, of like how much work we put into it, and I was just like, man, I got to get out there, I got to really start promoting this thing, you know, like so that's how I'm trying to like respond to that anxiety, is exactly what you said, of just like, we have put so much work in, you know, already, and like if it's just about, you know, what's the harm, and just like reposting some of it and just kind of getting it out there and engaging, like it's not that big of a deal, you know. So
It deserves
that's
to
how
be
I'm kind of feeling.
seen. It deserves
Yeah,
to be seen, and it's great. So you don't even need to be encouraged that you don't have to feel that
thank
way.
you so much. Thank you so much for saying that.
All right, so to wrap it up, what's next for you? What's your next project? What are you working on?
My next project, I guess, is creatively is kind of like up in the air. As I said, I have written a couple of sketches lately, and a close friend of mine named Julian Joseph, who's also in the series, he and I have just been friends for so long, but he just recently got into film school, and he's like starting his own production company. So he has like a bunch of equipment now, and he's just getting really into it. So he and I and Britt all like shot this little sketch. We're probably going to try and shoot some more sketches.
You're back
but
into
I don't have any
improv,
like,
and
huh?
you're back into improv and doing sketches again.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't have any other like big projects, I guess, lined up, especially because, you know, like we were just saying, I do still kind of want to see this one through, like, to fruition. And I think that's like a tough part of making projects like this, right? Is as I said at the start, it's been like 3 years that I've been working on this, like total, right? And at this point, I think one of the reasons that I didn't get as involved in promotion as I could as well was probably like, I'm thinking, okay, this is it. We're releasing it. Like, this is the finish line. Like, we made it to the finish line. And that's even a phrase that I've used like multiple times in this podcast. And it's true, because getting it to the release is like a certain kind of a finish line, but it's those people that, like, some of the people that I met through the From the Heart production company, there were like other filmmakers that you interact with there, and like they'd been working on a single documentary and promoting it for like 6-7 years, and then like at that point is when it takes off, like, and those are real things. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what everybody should do in any way, or like what I really plan to do with this project, but I don't know. That's kind of what we're here to talk about. So that's also on my mind, right? Is like just reminding myself that you only have so much time and energy. If I want to keep this project kind of moving forward in some way or another, like if I think there's more that it can gain from my time and energy, then I want to like maximize those gains, right? And so I'll still continue to contribute to it. Like, that's something that I have to keep reminding myself and putting on my to-do list. Like, what do I have to do for Jed this week? Like, what is there, instead of thinking like, oh, that's done.
Yeah.
Because it's tempting to think that way because you're tired, right? Like, you're just like, you want to be done. Yeah, but that's kind of, I think, what is next for me is just like continuing to try and put this out there, at least until the festival season is over for this year. And then I think I will really be done with it for sure, right? And I mean, unless someone like picks up the series or something, and then it's like
all over again. Yeah.
All over. But I kind of like that's not necessarily like on my mind in like a big way, like, but I'm super happy with it. Yeah.
And you should be. Let us know
Thank
how
you.
we can find you. What are your handles and all that good stuff?
The handle for the series is at The Thing With Jed. Jed is the main character's name, and I guess my personal Instagram handle, if you want to see pics of like my dog and my girlfriend, are is at Dellan, Dellan. But yeah, you can check out this series on YouTube. It's again just called The Thing With Jed. And that's it.
Thank you. So, and you should check it out. I was trying to figure out who done it, and it's a nice ending. So definitely check that out on YouTube. Follow Dellan and The Thing With Jed on social media. Thank you so much, Dellan, for chatting with me, giving up a part of your Saturday to talk about
Thank you.
all things
Really,
film.
thank you so much for inviting me. Like, it was so nice. I'm sorry that I'm such a long-winded talker. But like, it really is. This was like so cool to be able to do. Like it's just, like I said, I'm like a first-time filmmaker. No one has wanted to interview me about anything I've ever done in my life. So like, it was very cool to even just have you, like, just for us to be able to chat, as like fellow creators, and like, to talk to somebody who knows the process and like understand it. So, yeah, thank you so much again. And yeah, this is awesome.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.